Good evening. Welcome to the Ward 6 City Council Forum. Thank you for attending, and thank you, Ward 6 residents, for sending in the questions we'll be asking today. Before I get going with introductions on Quincy Votes, and Jaya will outline the Asian Pacific Islanders Civic Association Network, I did want to thank QATV and their volunteers for providing us the space to be able to make this happen. I know QATV does great work and keeps us informed about our city, so I just want to know we appreciate you. All right. Okay. So let's just start out. I'm Kathy Gertie. I am a long-time 25-year resident of Ward 6, 30-year resident of the city of Quincy. I am the vice president of Quincy Votes and working along with the Quincy Votes group to get out the Quincy Votes local, specifically focused on Ward 6, Precinct 2. So Quincy Votes was started in 2021 following a 17% voter turnout in the city. So, you know, it became quite apparent that people needed to be educated on voting, how to vote, how to learn about the candidates, and the process in general. So that is our mission. We are a nonpartisan, independent group of volunteers who love to engage in the community to increase that voter turnout and overall engagement. Yeah, so we're committed to providing objective information to assist folks. And the quincyvotes.org site is a great spot for individuals to learn more about the voting process. So, Jaya, I think I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for welcoming me to Quincy. My name is Jaya Savitha. I am the Executive Director of the Asian Pacific Islanders Civic Action Network, which is a statewide coalition of over 20 groups from across the state of primarily AAPI and working class serving nonprofits. We're committed towards racial and wealth equity for BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, while representing the Pan-Asian perspective. We were founded in 2016, and APIsCAN has championed significant wins over the past nearly 9 years now, focusing on progressive policy here in Massachusetts and working on the ground with our partners to fight for housing rights, data equity, immigrant justice, voting rights, particularly in the face of rising anti-immigrant and anti-API hate. And we're here to support Quincy Votes as an organization committed to turning out the vote and having increasing civic engagement of the Asian community here in Massachusetts. Ward 6 has a rising and growing Asian American population, and with that, a growing voting population. And so we're particularly committed to empowering that group of voters to know their candidates, to know how, to know kind of the platforms that you all are going to be sharing with us. And this is a space for all of our groups and all of our communities to really engage in the electoral process, to learn about the candidates, to learn about the issues at hand here in Quincy. And we're thrilled to be partnering with Quincy Votes to do this sort of nonpartisan civic engagement.
Thanks, Jaya. We're really glad to have your partnership and join in our shared missions. Well, great. So now we'll move on in regards to the questions. Okay, so how this is going to work is you're going to each pick a number. Okay, number 1 will start first for question 1. Number 2 will start first for question 2, 3 for question 3, and then 1 for question 4. And then we'll keep that kind of cycle going as we move into closing commentary also. All right, thanks, Shiv.
Sure.
Okay.
Got 2.
Okay. All right. So let's go to introductions first. Excuse me. So, Jim, would you like to kick us off?
Excuse me. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Heather. I appreciate the opportunity to join Quincy Votes on this important topic of getting out the vote, increasing the awareness of the candidates, what they stand for, what their what their candidacy is all about. So tonight, I want to speak about Ward 6 as a whole. I have lived in Ward 6 most of my life. I grew up in North Quincy. My background in school is I went to all of the Quincy school systems. I graduated from Eastern Nazarene College with a degree in business administration. I've been kind of sitting on the sidelines for a number of years in the politics. I've actually been in politics helping the politicians. Now I think it's time that we need a change for the city of Quincy's Ward 6. My 3 pillars are communications, transparency, and accountability. So communications is seriously lacking in this ward. I'm hearing this from all of my contacts I'm making out in the field, knocking on doors. Transparency. There seems to be no transparency, and that has to stop. With a vote for Jim Coffey, you'll be seeing me, you'll be hearing me, you'll be talking to me in the ward, in your precincts, because I'm going to go out to the precincts and hold coffee talks. The last item in the pillar is the accountability. I want to be the counselor for Ward 6 that is accountable for my votes, accountable for my decisions. I will be thinking carefully and thoroughly before I cast a vote, especially votes that are very, very serious, that have serious financial considerations for them. And I'll be held accountable for those decisions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And Chris, you could give us an introduction of yourself, please.
Yeah, hi. My name is Christopher Chan. I live in North Quincy. You can tell right now I'm wearing a pink shirt. I'm different than all the other candidates out there. I'm Asian American. I know that all the other candidates also talk about things like 55 and housing and senior citizens, help for them. Ward 6 is made of more than just that. We have people who are families, got single parents, got folks who are renters, folks who are immigrants. We have people who are just coming and staying for a little bit. You know, we got to be able to reach out to all the people who are in Ward 6. I have focused my campaign on being able to be transparent with people, being open in communication. I'm all over social media. You'll find me on Facebook, Reddit. We got an Instagram now, so that's fun. Got email, phone. My personal phone number is on one of these QATV messages, so check out that Easter egg. Cool. And for good or for bad, I'm proposing transparency. I'm out there, I make mistakes, everybody makes mistakes, but you know what? We do that in order to grow and be mature in all of this. And not everybody is going to have a nice, smooth, polished background. I'm just a regular guy looking to help serve the city of Quincy and help the ward. And at the end of the day, I just want to be accountable to myself, be transparent as well with all of you, and have better and equal representation for Ward 6. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deborah.
Thank you. Yes, good evening, and thank you for having us here tonight. My name's Deborah Riley. I am a 35-year resident of Quincy and 23 years in Ward 6. This is my second time around. I did this 2 years ago, and I ran specifically so that the voters would have choice. There was going to be no opponent the last time around, and I'm thrilled that there are more more candidates and that we have a primary, a preliminary election. So I think that at the end of the day, it's the voters that win in that scenario. I'm looking forward to getting my message out, which is pretty consistent, improving communication, improving access to City Hall, and really being a voice for the voters. That is what I'm in the taxpayers of Quincy. That is my pledge. I will, give my best effort, and I look forward to having the opportunity.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we start with the questions, I did want to just touch base in regards to how this forum was established. So again, as part of our Quincy Votes local initiative, focusing on Ward 6, Precinct 2, in addition to our door knocking and such, we were getting ready to set this forum up. As soon as the ballots were certified and we knew for sure there would be a preliminary election, we invited the 4 candidates. So during that process, if somebody didn't get back to us, we'd follow up just to understand the importance of having all 4 candidates present. Unfortunately, Bill Harris couldn't be available, and we tried to make alternative accommodations, but it was not successful. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. All right. So JR and I will be alternating questions in regards to what has been submitted. I'll go first, and Chris, you'll be the first person asked based on our rotation. So this resident said, I do my best to stay up to date on ongoing in Quincy issues and items, but I often don't know about the important items, developments, projects, until I read about them in the newspaper. How do you plan to communicate with residents if you are elected to City Council? What real concrete things will you do to ensure all residents are better informed, excuse me.
Thank you, Coffey.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Quincy right now, right? We're in the middle of this large time of growth, right? We have a lot of people moving into the city for housing reasons, for budgetary reasons. They're looking for something different, a little cheaper than what's offered around the area, like Boston. In order to communicate with people, right, as a city councilor, I would look to utilize the city website as it currently is. We would give more and frequent updates. There's currently a video on there called In Your Neighborhood, something to the effect, and it's a video from 2018. It talks about the big why. The big why is not there anymore. We have 99 Ranch. Okay. I, as well, have also been using social media as part of my campaign. I would look to continue that trend for the city council position. So we're talking about email, Reddit, Facebook. We're going to get a WhatsApp. We got Instagram, got phone. You can send a letter, you can do a text, right? We're going to be looking to be accessible for everybody. And we will also look to put out other communications as well. People are looking for a newsletter. We'll try to do that on maybe a monthly basis, quarterly basis, anything. We'll see what the response rate would be and then try to reach out in those particular ways. And then we'd also be looking to host anything like an open forum, city hall kind of thing, where people can come in. I have open office hours that I'd be proposing. I'd have something like a community forum where people could just come up to the mic, talk about whatever they like, and feel free and confident to share in a safe space where they're not going to be rushed. There's going to be nothing on the agenda, just them sharing their thoughts and concerns. And yeah, we'll have a conversation. That's basically it. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, what a great question. One of the things that I've done since I ran last time was I really made a point to get involved and attend as many community meetings as I could. And that most of the big ones would be the zoning, planning, and conservation. And what I found is that that's really where ideas sort of first start to get introduced to the community. And if you're not paying attention, it's really easy to miss something important. And not just in the ward, because I do believe that each city councilor is one of 9 members, and that role is important. So what I would try to do is to really zone in on more openness and more communication around the business that's coming before those boards. Certainly anything that's within my ward, I would be sure that the people impacted are aware, that they're properly noticed and have an opportunity to weigh in, because it is a public forum. But if people aren't paying attention, if we don't know about it, it's awfully hard to really know what's happening until all of a sudden it's being unveiled. So my hope would be that we can get a little bit more transparency in the city and a little better communication with regard to a lot of those public meetings. That's where projects start.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Jim.
So Kathy, as I said earlier in my introduction, my 3 pillars, communications, transparency, and accountability. So communications, I think, it's a key, because if you don't have communications with the residents in your ward, in particular Ward 6 here, there's a big hole. The people don't know what's going on. People are not informed. People find out, as you said earlier, from the newspapers that something is on the docket and something is being voted on, or already has been voted on. My plan is to bring back communications, full communications from me as a ward councilor to the residents of Ward 6. And also, I want to hear back from them as well. I have multiple mediums to which they can do that. I have my website, I have several email addresses, several phone numbers, both one at the city and my own personal cell phone, which I encourage people to reach out to. I'm also going to be launching a podcast. And a podcast, I believe, is going to allow those people who don't have the time during the course of their day to make a phone call or even send an email. So they'll be able to either join in on the podcast or be able to review the podcast at their leisure. My goal is to offer full communications, as I said earlier. And that means any means that possible, a newsletter, an email letter going out to all the constituents, and follow up with all calls and emails in a timely manner.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jay is going to ask our second question.
So kind of in line with the first question, what are the biggest issues facing our ward, and what do you believe, or how do you believe that issue should be handled? And we'll start with Deborah.
There's a lot to unpack there, but I would say one of the things that I hear people talking about a lot is property taxes. It's not a ward-specific issue, but it is absolutely one of the biggest concerns that I hear people talking about. When people talk about having to potentially sell their home because they're finding it unaffordable, even without a mortgage, to be able to stay in their home, that's concerning. We need to do better at helping people with a tax abatement of some kind, residential exemption, and making the programs that are available. There are a few programs that are available for taxpayers, but it's awfully hard to navigate. I've looked into the paperwork, and there's a lot of personal financial information you have to provide. I'd like to hold a workshop where there's a deadline, I believe it's in April. I'd like to hold workshops where we help our seniors fill out that paperwork that has to be filled out every year. And if people choose to take a deferment, which is another option, that they really understand the implications of that. So that, I would say, is probably my biggest concern. I also hear environmental issues. People are concerned about the rising tides and that sort of thing. I'm not sure we're going to be able to solve that, but we can certainly help by communicating with people and offering services to help them deal with environmental issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you. So, in my door knocking that I've been doing for the last, 3 or 4 months, one of the most common response I get is, what can you do about taxes for the seniors and elderly? And I'm kind of taken back by the thought that we have seniors that are living, and elderly individuals that are living in their homes for 60 some odd years, even longer. They have been paying taxes in this city for at least that long, if not longer. They've raised their families. They've raised children who have gone on to have children, and yet we still tax them like they're a six-figure income in the city. That's wrong. The City of Boston has a program that I'm looking at modeling, or come close to modeling, which is going to give a means test approach to providing a tax relief plan. Some of the medium will be income, how many years they live in the house, they own the house, and so on. And then we're going to attach a value to those answers, and then be able to hopefully assess anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 in a tax discount off their taxes every year. Boston can do it, and we're way better than Boston, so we should easily be able to do that.
Thanks. And Chris.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I have heard a lot of issues talking about in Ward 6. For me, I hear that the traffic sucks going to the Neponset Bridge. I drive out to Newton, come back, it's terrible. We're talking about affordability in the city. Everything has gone up in terms of price. We're talking about inflation overall. We're talking grocery prices. People are talking, as mentioned, as the other candidates. We're talking about property taxes. And I know that there are senior citizens out there who are living on a fixed income, and it's good to offer something like a tax abatement or a residential exemption that does put a stress on the city of Quincy in terms of the tax revenue that it needs to collect, because at some point some other individual or other group population will need to pay more, and then their tax rate will also have to increase as well. I would propose that we look for more options on affordability on the whole and rework the entire system to make Quincy affordable for everyone. So we're talking about trying to lower the prices of groceries, make things a little more accessible, a little more services available, and then also have funding for that. And then I hope we talk about it soon enough. We're going to talk about the Long Island Bridge. So yeah, very controversial issue. I am the only candidate in this race who is for the bridge. I would like the bridge to be rebuilt and have the ability to work with Boston and the city of Quincy together so we can collaborate, and then also have a little bit of some kind of concessions, or just stop wasting the resources for that fight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, that's quite a segue into our next question, actually, and we did not share the questions ahead of time. So this question from the resident is, to the effect that upwards of $1 million is being spent in legal expenses to stop building the bridge to Long Island. When do you think it will be time to stop spending the taxpayers' money and move forward with what appears to be the inevitable, the rebuilding of this bridge to provide needed services? So, Chris goes next. Who goes next? I'm sorry, I lost.
Jim
Jim.
starts,
Sorry,
yeah.
Jim.
So, that question was actually proposed to me when I was knocking doors,
Yep.
almost verbatim. And how I answered it is this way. I don't like spending $1 million, $2 million, or $3 million fighting something that some people might think is an inevitable loss, that you're not going to win. I like to look at it this way. If you don't fight for something that you truly believe in, something that we cannot allow the environmental issues that are on the island to be brought through the streets of Quincy. We cannot destroy our streets and our neighborhood with trucks and cranes and all sorts of things, heavy equipment coming through. That's just to get rid of the stuff that's out there. That's been out there since World War II, maybe. And then you talk about bringing trucks in to rebuild the bridge. I mean, it is going to be complete chaos, and it's going to destroy the North Quincy, Squantum part of our neighborhood. I'm against that. The question is, when do we stop, spending money? Maybe what we need to do is reset and figure out, is there a better way to attack this? Maybe, I know we've tried the EPA, we've tried the Coast Guard, we've tried a lot of other agencies. Maybe we need to really engage with our state and our federal elected officials to help us with this, because I really am against that bridge from being built. It is not for the reasons that the mayor of the city of Boston has proposed. It is for development, period, and not for development of housing for addicted, and homeless individuals, because they will not come out to Long Island. They have to want to get on the bus to come out, and they're not going to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah.
Yes, that is probably the most divisive issue that we have in the ward, because the belief that there's this beautiful treatment center out there is not the case. Obviously, it's been abandoned for quite some time. I do remember when there were services out there, and you know, people were doing good work out there, but it's been a decade more, I can't remember, since they've been providing those services. So I believe that the City of Boston is fully entitled to build that bridge. We just don't want all that traffic for the construction to come through our neighborhoods, and we don't want all the traffic for the employees and the services. What I would like to see is to work collaboratively with the City of Boston and to find multiple means of access. If the bridge is the only way to get through from Long Island to Moon Island and Moon Island through Squantum, it's going to bring an awful lot of traffic. There's already a lot of traffic for the Moon Island use. So I would like to see us work more collaboratively with the City of Boston, and I agree that, you know, an awful lot of money has been spent fighting this legal challenge. So my fear is that if we don't work with Boston, then we're going to end up with nothing but a big legal bill.
Thank you, Deborah. And Chris.
I brought this up and I got to talk about it.
There you go.
Yeah. You know, I did a little bit of my own research because the issue was new to me, and I saw that, at least from the City of Boston, they have a navigation impact study. It's directly on their website, 2021. They sent it to the Coast Guard, and they had independent review about what would be the best options for them to undertake, whether that meant using the old substructure, building a new bridge, or having ferry alternatives. And in that report, it mentioned specifically why they cannot use ferries in order to service that area. They're talking about the number of staff, the number of hours, the vehicles that are needed, and then just a lot of moving parts that are not specifically mentioned here. We can't do ferries alone in order to get that bridge going. Now, there was a WBUR article in 2023 saying that Boston has pretty much won all the fights against the City of Quincy in regards to this. And as the moderators mentioned, $1 million has been spent every year. That's a lot of money. That could be going to schools, that could be going to infrastructure, that could be going to pensions. If you look at the budget right now, there's about $4 million just not going there. And also, Bill Harris has mentioned too in a previous forum that Boston may not be entirely transparent about it, calling the area an economic opportunity zone. I went to the City of Boston website looking at that economic opportunity zone. Every other place that mentions economic opportunity, they have a bio, a set plan of what there is to develop. There's nothing there for the City of Boston. So I understand that there are things about traffic, but it's a small price to pay in order to have collaboration with the City of Boston. As well as that, we're helping society as a whole to help them work with substance abuse, homelessness, and mental health issues. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jaya has our final question.
Yes. So, final question submitted by community members in Ward 6. What are your plans for climate change mitigation and waste reduction in Quincy, specifically in Ward 6? For example, there is a significant amount of trash that accumulates along the access road to Squantum, in the marsh along Wallaston Beach, and in neighborhoods, especially on trash day with strong winds. Additionally, what will you do to mitigate flooding of access roads in residential areas during nor'easter storms? And we'll start with Chris for the first answer.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. I can tell you straight up, I have not really thought about this. Didn't think that climate change was going to land in such a race, but I will tell you just stuff off the top of my head. I know that there's a lot of trash everywhere. I went to Squantum Point Park. There's trash along the the beach, large structures that are very unseemly and very unsafe. Been to the walking trails near the Granite Halls, Granite Hills, Granite Links, of course. My apologies. There's construction equipment there, and there's a bag of dog poop sitting there. The last time I went, it was a few days ago. A lot of plastic, even strewn in the ball fields. And although it's presentable, right, people can still use it, but you don't want that in your neighborhood by any means. I know that the Squantum School is looking to they're looking to rebuild the Squantum School, and it's aiming towards sustainability and net zero energy and just being energy compliant and being better than it was before. So that would be one way that I would look to tackle, look for more eco-friendly environment, health stuff. Like I said, I'm just kind of jumbling my words here. In terms of flooding the flooding access, we can look towards other cities to see how they have developed their seawalls, and then look for other comparable solutions in order to fix them. Thank you.
Deborah.
Yeah, so I guess it's a two-part question. It's the environmental flooding, and then also the waste and recycling, I guess. So one of the things on the waste and recycling is I would like to see us expand the curbside composting program. It's been available as a pilot, it's voluntary, and I would like to see that expanded. I see the little bins out. I would want to sign up. I've been meaning to do it, and I think it's a great program. It's something that I actually think the city does a good job at. They've always done a pretty good job of waste and recycling. I remember the old Christmas tree program where you would recycle your Christmas tree and you'd go back in the spring and get a little sapling, and it's something that I think the city does pretty well on. I also have seen where we're not going to be able to hold back the tides, but there has been a better effort to predict some of these high tides and to have barriers available if the roads need to be closed. So I personally think that that's an area where I've seen a lot of improvement in the city, and I'd like to just make sure that we continue to do that, and that we communicate out to people when those events are planned or expected, so that people, especially in Squantum, know which side of the peninsula they want to be on when if a road would need to get shut down. As far as the trash, that blows around, it's terrible. I mean, I swear that it comes on Monday nights when people put their recycling bins out, and you wake up in the morning and it's all over the place. But my hope would be that we can maybe get some more community involvement. It really comes down to picking up the trash in your sidewalk, in your street, and on your property, and helping those people who can't do it. One thing I've noticed since I've been door knocking is some people obviously cannot keep up with regular yard maintenance and that kind of thing, and I think as a community we can certainly help those people out.
Thank you. And Jim.
So, the environment is kind of one of those touchy subjects. Some people think that there's nothing wrong with the environment. Some people think that we're heading down a slippery slope. I'm one of the latter. We can either preserve our environment or we can destroy it. One of the things that I think we need to do more of is to actively involve the EPA and other federal and state agencies on trying to help us preserve. In Quincy, for instance, we have a lot of flood tide. And instead of building on it, I think we need to take a look at how do we preserve it. Flood tides work to be able to control flooding because on the causeway over the Squantum, that fills up and that holds back a lot of the water. It doesn't hold all of the water, and so we need to look at how we can change the causeway, whether we can raise it or we can do something so that we can mitigate the flooding. If you live out there, even in Marina Bay, it's very difficult when you hit a big storm and you can't get out or you can't get into your property. Trash enforcement needs to be picked up. It needs to be to a point where if people are putting out their trash without a barrel, they need to be warned and they need to go get a barrel. We need to start forcing, because it's not just the trash all over the street, it's the rat problem. Because the rats are going into the trash barrels in the night because they're just plastic bags sitting out there on the curb. So we need to also look at the flooding along other parts of Walston Beach. When you get a big storm, it floods. We need to educate the homeowners along the beach and other areas, low-lying areas that flood, on what are some of the other cities and towns south of Boston have done. For instance, in Hull, when you're on the way out to the peninsula, they turn around and open up both the sides of the garage door and they let the ocean go through. And then the ocean goes back out and then they close the doors and no harm to the house. Things like that is what I think we need to look at.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jaya, and thank you, everybody. So now it's time for your closing statements. All right, and again, you'll have 2 minutes, and we'll be starting with Deborah, and then Jim and Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you again for having us. I'm going to just give a few closing remarks and say that I don't profess to have any big answers to all of these really big issues, but I will pledge to be your counselor and represent the interests of the taxpayers. We need to rein in spending in this city. We are spending far too much money on things that are nice to have and not necessities. I fully believe in funding public safety, education, and infrastructure, but I don't believe we need to be spending excessive amounts of monies on statues and cemeteries and celebrations. It just seems to be excessive at this point. We're not going to be able to implement any kind of tax relief for any of our citizens as long as we're spending as much money as we are collecting. So I would pledge to be one of the 9 counselors on the City Council that will represent the interests of the voters, the people in the city of Quincy, and I will do it to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Jim.
So let's go back to where I first started. The 3 pillars of my campaign is communications, transparency, and accountability. And then from there, you can pull out taxes. Being accountable on the City Council and making sure that you're thinking carefully and thoughtfully about decisions that affect the ward and also the city in terms of taxes. What is going to happen if they pass this bill? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about it and say, is that going to affect my elderly? Is that going to affect the businesses? So we need to become more clearly thoughtful about decision making. Taxes, they're out of control. They're going to continue going up. Our debt is $1.6 billion as we sit here today. In 2027, I don't see any reason why it's not going to be over 2. Because we cannot continue to spend and then have the taxpayers pay the burden. I want to pass a senior elderly tax plan, one that gives them serious money back on their taxes. We need to take care of them. They're the ones who have built this city. And we're just coming up in age, some faster than others, and we need to make sure that we provide them with the ability to stay in their home and not have to move because of it. Development. I think development is very important. The problem with some development is that in some of these programs that we offer, like a TIF program, it allows the cities and the municipalities to offer discounts, like, for instance, freezing their tax rate for a number of years, like 6, 10, 18, 20 years. I don't agree with that. Now, I don't know all the details in what has been passed of recent, but I want to look into that and find out why are we doing that. Because we should be giving the taxpayers, the residential taxpayers, that discount, that break. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And Chris,
How long do I have for this?
2 minutes,
2 minutes.
please.
Does it start now? Does it? Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to thank my wife, Amanda, for getting me out here to do this. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for my volunteers, Christian and Lily, for working on the campaign, getting the information, and making it a little more understandable. I want to thank all the candidates, Deborah, Jim, and Bill, for fighting for what they believe in is the best interest of Quincy. We may have disagreements on things, but you know what? We're all trying to help Quincy in our own particular way. I see the candidates not as opponents, but people I'd like to work with in the future. I'd also like to thank all the volunteers on all teams, not just my team, but also, again, Deborah, Jim, and Bill, because you have decided to step up and step out and do something for your city. And we're looking to increase things like voter turnout. We're looking to have more information available to people. We can't do that just by sitting at home and just typing things online. We need to be out there. We need to get our feet on the ground and just do something. I'd like to talk a little bit about what my campaign is like. Like I said on the closing, I want to foster a spirit of collaboration. I want to work with everybody. We're not here as opponents. We're here just to try to get things better. I want to foster a spirit of openness, transparency, representation. I am here just as a person, just a regular working class guy, and just approach me. Politicians are just regular people. They don't need to dress up or anything, and they're not anything special. They're just people who were chosen by other people in order to do things. Finally, I'd like to have translation services available for city documents. I'd like to have more translation services available for voting, and also allow it to be easier for people to come out and vote. You got the absentee voting, mail-in voting, all that stuff, but we should look for something like a day off. Make it a little easier for people to schedule it in and feel that they don't have to rush, and that the city really wants their vote, that they really want people to come out and share their voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that does conclude our forum. I do want to thank the three of you and Bill Harris for running, right? As we said, the fact is the preliminary election is impressive and it's important, and thank you, because I know it's a lot of work. Speaking of preliminary elections, right? So that preliminary election is Tuesday, September 2nd. That's the day after Labor Day. So Quincy Votes tells you to please make a plan. Early voting begins this weekend at City Hall. You can request a mail-in ballot, or you can vote in person. And the beautiful thing is all of this information is available on the Quincy Votes website, quincyvotes.org. There's a special section for Quincy Votes Local, and you can see all of the responses from the candidates for Ward 4 as well as Councilor at Large to continue your education to understand who and what you're voting for. I also know that each of these candidates would be available and willing to answer any of your questions. The most important message to take away, other than we have 4 great candidates, is make a plan to vote and visit quincyvotes.org. Again, thank you for your time. And Jaya, thank you very much.
Yes.
As I said, your partnership has been amazing.
Thank you.